Hey there, this is Will with the Real Estate Examiner. Thanks for watching another episode. I really appreciate it. I wanted to show you in this video a quick introduction to some easy code that you can start building some linear models with your data. Either comparables data or whole hood data or just a subset of the data. You're trying to find some interesting information and creating logic through exploratory analysis, and you need to be able to model your data easy. The quickest way to do that is to be able to write an RStudio script that you can re-execute over and over again while modifying the data in between each run. I'm going to show you that in this video. I'm going to show you the very simple code that we can try to get you involved in creating your own tools for your own exploratory analysis. So let's get started. So essentially what we need in the first place is to identify our data. You go ahead and pull your data from MLS, whatever it may be, and then you go ahead and you identify that data wherever it's found as a CSV file. It cannot be an Excel file or any other type of workbook. It needs to be a comma separated value file that you'll need to export it as. There are methods of renaming a file as a .csv, but that can have complications and interrupt your process pretty easily. So if you have the ability to export your data from your MLS as a CSV file, you should do it that way. I'm going to show you here a quick CSV file example. This is a comparables data set that we've used in a previous video for our many model approach. And these are the well, this is what the data looks like. It's pretty simple. There's multiple observations, 141, including the header. Right here is the header, and these are important. So these are the names of the values or the factors that you're considering in your analysis. And you'll notice that none of these headers have spaces in them. There's a very good reason for that. Typically, coding doesn't want spaces inside of values. So it's very hard for them to identify. So you're going to want to make sure that your headers are labeled correctly and you know the labels. That's a pivotal part of building your own code for your own data sets. So we have close date, original list price, lot size. These are the typical ones that we're going to be going through. I've refined this to not show you all the data, all the addresses, the MLS numbers and stuff like that. So yours might look a little bit different, but you're going to want to make sure that when you export your CSV file, you have all the factors of value you want in there. Garage count, year built, room count, lot size, the price that it sold for, the date that it sold for, the date that it went under contract. All of that information, you're going to want to make sure that you have it in there. Feel free to pause the video and look at mine and use that as a template. That should be fine. But remember, your headers are going to be named differently than mine, and you need to be aware of that when writing your code. All right, so after looking at your data, we're going to go to RStudio. We're going to open it up, and we're going to have a new project. You create a new project directory and name it whatever you'd like. Put it wherever you like, or somewhere you can find it. And then you're going to create a new R script. Right here, click the green arrow, R script, and now we have a new script. So one of the things that I want to do here is I want to make sure that we can import our data. And the way we do that, the way I like to do that, and it gives me a great amount of flexibility, is I use this set of code right here. And what this does is it takes my data and it labels it as my underscore data. And it uses this function to import that data. What it's doing is it's taking whatever I've copied into my computer's clipboard, Control C, you put things into the clipboard, and it's going to take that clipboard contents and put it into a data object called my underscore data. So we're going to do that now. And we can do that very easily by going and hitting one of the cells that is not blank. Control A, Control C, and now it's in my clipboard. Then I can go ahead and I can go to this line or this line, whichever, and I can hold down Control and then hit Enter. And that's going to go ahead and run that line of code. And that code is now created a my_data object. I can click on that my_data object, and you can see that I very easily imported that data into my code or into RStudio. Pretty quick. There are multiple options in regards to importing here, in regards to this read.table function, and you can do things like na.omit, and you can do things like remove records that have blank cells in them. There's a multiple things that you can do to help import that data. Sometimes you need to go ahead and remove blank cells before you can even get it to import. So these are important things you'll need to learn that we'll try to get through in our videos. So one of the next most important things that we do need to go over is libraries. So when you're using libraries, you need to be able to import these every time in your script. So a library is installed in RStudio via a package. So you can go into Tools up here on the toolbar and install a package. And then you can go ahead and just type it in. And you'll see that it automatically comes up and you just hit enter. These are the 4 different packages that I tend to use in my analysis, creating and manipulating the data. And you can go ahead and install that, and you'll only have to install it once. So if this is your first time using RStudio, install it once, and then every time you call that library in your R script, it's not going to reinstall it. It's just going to call that installation so that it can be used when you're using particular sets of R code. So after creating our data set in RStudio and after calling our libraries, we can use multiple functions. Once you get the libraries installed as packages, you're going to want to go ahead and you're going to want to call each one. Again, just scroll to the correct line, hold Control down, and hit Enter. And those should go ahead and compile a bunch of information down below in the console. You'll see a bunch of lines. Should work fine. If you do get an error, go ahead and reinstall the package and it should fix itself. If not, you may need to restart RStudio and start over again, and then it should work. Okay, so let's get into calling and observing our data set a little bit. So some things that we can do is looking at the headers of our data set by hitting names and in parentheses calling the data set here. So that's the function names, and then in parentheses our data object, my_data. And down here in the console, it shows you the different names of the headers for your data set, which is important. You want to be able to identify these in your data set because you need to use those headers, the names of those headers, in your RStudio code. And you can look at the tail end of the data set, tail parentheses my_data. It's going to show you the last 5 records, the last 5 properties in this case, for your data set. And you can also look at the head. And it'll show you the first 5 or 6 lines of your data set. So it helps gives you some information here in regards to formatting and things how the data got imported. So what we want to do now is we want to create a new copy of our data set. When we're manipulating our data set, we want to make sure that we don't manipulate the original one. We want to manipulate a new copy of it. So that way we can use that new copy and make mistakes and backtrack and go ahead and back to our original one and make sure that we always have that original data set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just run a very simple line of code that assigns and copies that old data set to a new data object, the data frame, and it's called df2. You can name it anything you want, df3 and my underscore data, and now we have a data frame 3 object up here as well. And you can see it's very similar as the my underscore data. It's the exact same thing, but you're just naming it and calling it something new so that way you don't overwrite it in your code. But now when we call a data object for our code, we're going to make sure that we're calling df3 or df2, not my underscore data. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start formatting. One of the most difficult things that I've learned to do is formatting dates. This can take some time. There's a lot of videos on YouTube right now. I'll get into making a video for that soon, but I want to make sure that I spend a lot of time in getting the MMA approach videos put together and getting the exploratory analysis and getting you enough code so that you can go ahead and develop your simple linear models. They're very important. They put together a lot of information quickly for you, and I just want to make sure that you get that quickly. And then we'll backtrack and we'll get it more into the code and learning more R code videos. So let's go ahead and manipulate our pending date and our close date columns, because I want to make sure that they're in the format that works for my code and how I wrote it, and that it makes sense to RStudio. So I'm going to run this new line of code here, and pending date isn't found. One of the things that I had to do is I had to make sure that I removed some data in my comparables data set, and I copied some data over, and I had to change some headers. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this right now by importing over my original my underscore data by running this code. So now I've got that pending date column in my data set. I don't need to rerun my libraries, but you can see how quickly that I can change my underscore data just by running that code. And now I have pending date again. And that's kind of one of the reasons, one of the features that I'm showing you why we're using the code that we are. And we'll get into that in a minute. So now that I have that data set, and I take my underscore data and assign it to df2 and df3. So I've copied those over. Now I can go ahead and run this line of code. So now it's reformatted the information for the dates. It's showing it in month, day, year format. So that way I can use that in our RStudio code. So let's go and now look at actually developing some models. One of the nice things that you can do in RStudio is use a hashtag or a pound sign and make notes. So this line of code right here, it won't run. All it is a note for you when you're looking over your script again. You don't need that squiggly line there. All you need is this hashtag. So now we can go ahead and we can take our data frame 2 and we can filter it for the properties that have sold. All right, so they have a close price of greater than 1 or greater than 0, I could have put. And what that does is it removes any active and pending listings from my data set. It allows me to just observe the closed sales, which is important for our analysis, because what we're doing in here is we're creating a ggplot where we compare square footage to close price. So the square footage is the independent variable and the close price is the dependent variable. We're looking to see how square footage influences close price. I'm going to go ahead and run this line of code. And down here, you can see this lovely plot that was developed. We can see on the x-axis between 1,400 and 2,200 square feet, we have all these data points. And you have close price between $200,000 and $400,000. All these data points and a linear regression here. This is an excellent way to just see how the factors of value influence close price, and you can do this for every factor of value that you want to consider with some varying degrees of reliability. So let's look at the other factors that I want to see. Here's my square footage. Here's lot size. Let's pop that one open. And you can see that our scatter plot has properties that are well below 25,000 square foot in lot size, and then one way over 75,000 in lot size. So that means we may need to refine our data before we get too far into observations and creating information and logic. Here's another one, pending date for close price. So we can see market conditions may be increasing. There also could be a number of co-correlations going on here, newer properties selling more recently, or properties that are higher quality or superior in condition. We need to be confident in our market to be able to identify what's going on and whether this is a good analysis for market conditions. And instead of just using pending date, we can also use close date. Another factor of value is the number of bedrooms. So we can go ahead and create an analysis plot for that. And finally, we have a plot for bathrooms. So you can see the observations for 2 bathrooms and 3 bathrooms. And you have the observations for garages. So this is very good information for you to identify. It's going to help you create excellent practices in regards to refining your data and allowing you to see whether you need to remove that extremely large lot size, or you need to refine the sales price values based on a significant factor, such as age or the year built, or maybe you need to refine your neighborhood market area. Maybe you've expanded too large and you need to make it actually smaller so you can identify just the comparables. It's all about the intended use of your analysis. One of the things that I do want to show you is how we can now use this code to create a refinement in our data and make these plots change and get more information from it. So let's go ahead and look at our data set. And here we have that information, and we can go ahead and remove that significantly large lot size. Remember that? Over 75,000. So in Excel, I'm going to hold down Alt, and then I'm going to hit A and then T. That allows me to filter this like it's a table. So I'm going to go to my lot size column here, and I'm going to go ahead and remove that property that was over 95,000 lot size. There's nothing else even remotely similar in size. So we're going to go ahead and we remove that from our data set. And I'm going to hit Control A and then C again so that I can go ahead and copy it all. So I've copied it again, and now I want to go ahead and refine my data set. My underscore data, we're going to import that information again. And then we're going to run our lines of code again. Just holding down Control and hitting Enter. So we have the square footage. You can see that plot, and here's the lot size. You can see that how it's changed. The 75,000 square foot lot is, or 95,000 square foot lot is now removed. We have more information. We can use this better. If you liked what you saw today, I think the biggest takeaway is that you can select the data in your CSV file, refine it as much as you want. Okay, you can remove properties that have occurred in the last year or two, depending on how big your data set is, and just use a particular subset that may be more like your subject property, and then you can just copy it all into your clipboard and import it. And you can redo that over and over and over again. It allows you to get more information, refine your data, and you're doing it very quickly. I don't know of any other tool that allows you to do that. That's the power of using R in your exploratory analysis. So if you take anything from this video at all, whether it be the very easy, simple code that you can just copy and now use for yourself, or the introduction to how our studio environment works, I think the most important thing that you can do with this is understand that it's not hard, that you can do it, and it can be very flexible, more flexible than any tool you've used. So with that in mind, if you enjoyed this video, if you've gotten something from it, please share a like, give me a like, and give us a subscribe button. That means a lot. It helps motivate me to get more videos done and help you share your information with other people. We need to get this to out as many professionals as we can. I know that this is important, valuable information for our profession, and we're going to start making big changes in our industry at an individual level. Not at a policy level, just us. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your time.